What's up, guys? Simone Fan 101 here, and yesterday was my dad's birthday, so I couldn't get my NXT and Lucha Underground reviews up, but that's what I'm doing here. This is my NXT review, and, well, enjoy. We started off with a match between the Vaudevillains and the Hype Bros. The Vaudevillains came back. They returned after a little bit of a hiatus. They're a lot more aggressive. They seem to be going back to the heelish side of things. It was a decent match for the few minutes it had. Normal basic match. Um, and a good solid one on the Vaudevillains here. Then we had I believe it was a brief interview of Carmella. She was interviewed for her NXT Women's Championship match against Bayley, who's the champion. Next week on NXT, I will be reviewing that, by the way. And it was a good interview. One thing about Carmella, she's a good talker. If there's anything I can say positive about her, she's definitely a very good talker. And she's hot, but she's a really good talker. I think it is her best attribute. And then again, working with Enzo Amore, yeah, that tends to rub off on you in terms of how good you are on the mic. Same thing with Seth Rollins and Triple H in the main roster. As soon as you started working with Triple H, his mic skills went up. So there's that. Next we have a Dash and Dawson brief, backstage interview. Basically talking shit. And by the way, guys, I have actually looked at all the backstage segments from these shows. Seems the only one really that's ever worth mentioning are the ones on Monday Night Raw and Lucha Underground. Sometimes TNA Impact proves a point. Sometimes NXT proves a point. But I'm not going to be reviewing every single little interview before and after matches because they're just too brief. They're not worth going over, and I can easily just explain it here. So we have next match is, ironically enough, is Carmella versus Emma. Honestly enough, I expected a lot more out of this match. Carmella did okay here. Emma, of course, was fine because she's one of the better women's wrestlers WWE has right now, and she's still on NXT. And she did her best in this match, at least in the best they could in about 4 or 5 minutes. And I think they got at least in terms of not performance wise, but in terms of storytelling, they did get a decent performance out of Carmella. So that was very good. Yeah, but the crowd was dead. The crowd was dead for most of the show because this was, when it comes to tapings, NXT tapings, your third set of tapings, like you have the first two shows, which are about 2 hours long. By the third hour, the crowd is dead, much like Monday Night Raw. And NXT is basically the same. That third show that is taped for NXT, the crowd is dead because they've been there for so long. Not too much can help their spot. So that's, even if it's a good episode, if you got a dead crowd, that does somewhat play a part. But for the most part, it was a decent match. So moving on, we have Endzone Cast defeats, what I call jobbers. One of the wrestlers was Jack Hurley. We have absolutely no idea who the other wrestler is. We have absolutely no clue. But Enzo and Cass came out very serious. They still hit their usual entrance where they call people soft, and it was basically an extended squash match. So it was really more so to prove a point and to expand the storyline. Next up, we have Asuka versus Santana Garrett. Now, if you watched NXT this week, you'll know that you might recognize Santana Garrett. She is the former Britney that was in TNA a couple years ago. I think it was in 2014. She was in TNA. She had a brief storyline with Madison Rain, another storyline with Samuel Shaw against Mr. Anderson. Sorry about that. It's the morning when I'm recording this. But yeah, for the most part, it was decent. Here's the thing, though. Santana Garrett, or Brittany, or whatever you want to call her, she's actually a decent performer. She's actually somewhat decent. I haven't seen too much of her, and her time in TNA did not impress me. But from what I've heard, and from what I've seen elsewhere, she actually does decently well. Hopefully, WWE will pick her up. She'll grow as a performer, and maybe become a good women's wrestler. She's definitely got a lot more promise than someone like Eva Marie. God knows WWE needs to get rid of her. She's just... I'm afraid she might be poison to the NXT Women's Division. So, yeah, what was the match? The match was... It was a decent match. It was only a 2.5 minute long match, but more so, again, just to move the storyline along and show that Asuka... You don't screw with Asuka. You do not want to get yourself in an alley with Asuka. Because she will probably rip your arm off and then hit you with it like a freaking battering ram or a bat. I don't know. So, decent match there. Next, and the last match of the night. So we have 5 matches on NXT, which usually I think is kind of a gamble. Lucha Underground, but maybe this is more attributed to how it's made as a show, has 3 matches a night, maybe 4. NXT had 5 this week. So, we had Finn Balor versus Apollo Crews. Now, they had a match, an NXT Championship match, a few months ago. I think it was in October or November. I can't remember which month. But they had an NXT Championship match. It caused a disqualification thanks to Baron Corbin after he came in and attacked Cruz, which led to their TakeOver London match. Oh, why am I tired? I don't know. Sorry about that. And what ended up happening was Corbin came in, attacked Apollo Crews, and that's when the Samoa Joe heel turn happened, which was a big storyline, turn for Samoa Joe and for the feud between him and Balor. Now, this case here, there was a story going into this, and I enjoyed this because this had a couple weeks worth of build-up. The storyline was that Cruz wants to go again at Finn Balor, but he knows he doesn't deserve a chance at the NXT Championship. Cruz doesn't, in this case, he doesn't want the NXT Championship. He just wants a match against Finn Balor. Because the last match they had did not end with either man winning. Like, legitimately winning. So, that was the story going into this match. And I enjoyed it very much. And out of all the matches tonight, this is the only match that got any sort of reaction from the crowd. This is the only match on NXT this week that got any sort of reaction from the crowd. Because they enjoyed Finn Balor, and probably because they haven't seen him in a little bit, and they enjoyed Apollo Crews. Because we haven't seen him in a little bit, except for a few weeks ago. So, that was the story. It was a very good story. My opinion, this match was better than their previous match. It started out slow. I think they did the headlock thing a little too long for the first 2 minutes or so. But afterwards, I think they just not fired on all cylinders, because I know these two are much more capable than this, given more time, of course. But I thought it was a very, very good match. Definitely the match of the night. Of course, for match or matches of the night, you go down to the inbox below and check out my rating for it. Finn Balor won after a double foot stomp, and this is what I marked out for this moment here. When he hit the Bloody Sunday, which is basically kind of like an underhook brainbuster. Much like think of Austin Aries' Brainbuster, except put in the underhook like the double arm DDT kind of thing. Um, and what it was a great finish because we haven't seen him use that move since Beast in the East last year. And if you can go back even further, he hasn't really used that move as a finisher since his New Japan days back, a couple years ago when he was constantly in New Japan. He hit the Bloody Sunday on a constant basis. That was one of his finishing moves. And to see him use that move, I'm thinking, is it a special occasion kind of thing where he just got away with it? Or is WWE allowing him to use more of those kind of moves? Maybe they'll use Austin Aries. They'll let Austin Aries use the Brain Buster. I can't picture a different finisher for Austin Aries. That 450 splash. He's like his mid-30s. He's not going to be able to do that for much longer. The last Chancery, yeah, they can work for a while, but I think the Brainbuster's the best for Austin Aries. And Bloody Sunday, which is what the finisher was called for Finn Balor, it was definitely a markout moment, especially for New Japan fans such as myself, because we've seen this guy use that move on several occasions in New Japan. It was his finisher, and it made us feel very happy that he was allowed to use it. So, with that said, this was a mediocre episode of NXT with a good ending. That's what it was. It ended on a really good note. I hope that the next couple weeks of tapings are really awesome. So in that case, like, comment, subscribe. In the description box, you'll see my link to my Ask.fm page. Go to the page whenever you want to ask me a question. It could be about anything, but you can ask me a bunch of wrestling questions if you want. So until my next review, later guys.